All that running around trying to be productive, it's exactly what's causing your dissatisfaction at work. Say what now? Yeah, exactly. We're going to finally dig into the why and how of that in this episode so that you can kick this productivity worldview to the curb once and for all and put yourself in the driver's seat of your sense of satisfaction at work. Hey, Creating Maven. I'm Joy Spencer, your Reframe specialist, with one important message. Your real work, it's not your job or your career. Your real work is what you create. And what you create is what sets you apart and makes you incomparable. It's your legacy. I'm here to show you a whole new way of working so you can create with your gifts, make a unique contribution, and finally get paid to be yourself. This is Reframe to Create. So I recently went back to listen to the trailer for this Reframe to Create podcast, and I was like, uh-oh, whoops. I've forgotten. I totally forgot to really dig into one of the podcast promises, and that's the promise about productivity culture and it being the thing that's at the root of your sense of satisfaction at work. And I realized, I'm like, okay, we're like many episodes in, and I think I've only given this topic a cursory view deep in the depths of some episode somewhere, but I haven't actually focused on it in an episode and gone deep. So I'm like, okay, I got to get to it. So my bad. And we're going to tackle that today. So let's get to the why and how productivity is at the root of your sense of dissatisfaction at work. Because you may be thinking, okay, isn't productivity what work is all about? And isn't getting better at that what's going to make everything easier and better? Nope. And no. First, I want you to close your eyes, unless you're driving. And then I want you to keep those bad boys wide open, don't want any problems. No, but if you can, I want you to close your eyes and just picture yourself at the start of a typical day. See yourself wake up and your eyes finally open. What is happening in your mind? It's immediately flooded, right? And most likely what it's flooded with is the list, right? That never-ending list, the to-do list that spilled over from yesterday, or even if it didn't, the to-do list that is perfectly crafted just for today. And maybe you can see yourself reaching for your phone, next to you because there's nobody there brave enough to slap your hand away and say, no, don't do it. So now you've got your phone in your hand and it begins. Phone, hit the floor, shower, dress, hit the road, or maybe just, hit the living room floor tiles or whatever if you're working from home. But you've got your to-do list and you're writing and scribbling down your to-do list, and then you go to town on it and you get a big high at the end of the day or a very deep low, depending on how well you judge that you did in getting your stuff done. Now, I want to be clear. I am not quibbling with the idea of getting stuff done. I mean, I get stuff done so that I can create this podcast, and getting stuff done is part of the creating mindset. So that's not my quibble. I'm challenging the idea of productivity, which places getting stuff done and getting more stuff done better and more efficiently as an organizing feature and orientation of this mindset. That's what I'm challenging. It's the central question of the productivity mindset is, how can I do this thing better and in less time? But at its core root, it doesn't centralize and ask, why? 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 Like, why? Why am I doing this? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing this at all? And this failure to make you ask why, not just first, but also ask why second, third, and fourth, and fifth, that failure to ask why is always the seed that eventually germinates into your dissatisfaction at work. And it is built into the productivity mindset. When you are deep in productivity culture because you've become obsessed with the latest tools, the latest productivity hack, or the latest productivity guru who's got you seduced into this worldview, it doesn't give you a chance to think, to stop, to pause, to ask questions. Because the goal is not slowing down or doing less or even reflecting. The goal is sharp efficiency and warp speed. You've seen this play out in your own life and work. A new tool is introduced, or maybe a new book, and the point of it is to start a conversation that centers around how you can do what you currently do better, how you can create a better to-do list, how you can be faster and less overwhelmed, we assume, because of it. And it springs from the hamster in a wheel worldview of work, which most of us are swimming in, where folks are running from meeting to meeting and virtue signaling how busy, run down, and exhausted they are. And this worldview has us falling mindlessly, and it has us doing what my guest in episode 80, Victoria P. Mitchell, describes as the definition of inertia. And her definition of inertia is going 100 miles an hour without the ability to switch lanes or to stop before going over a cliff. And I added the going over the cliff part, because that's a lot of times what's happening when you're just trying to be more and more and more productive. You're just going really fast, really hard to places that are going to destroy your health often. And that's what a productivity mindset primes you for and does to you. It gets you good at going over cliffs. And don't get me wrong, I know it feels good. It can feel good to check that thing off your to-do list. It can feel good to speed off from thing to thing to thing and from meeting to meeting and feel like, yes, whew, I got a lot done today. But not everything that feels good is good. Not everything that feels good in the short run is without long-term negative costs and regrettable consequences. You can speed ahead in all your productivity power and wake up one day to find that you've been going fast to get to a place you really don't care to be. And you've been doing it better and better and better and more efficiently every year. Maybe you even won the Most Productive Person of the Year award on your way to this nowhere you really value place. Maybe you've been zooming forward so productively that you haven't noticed when something is or has gradually become misaligned with you. You can miss those critical cues when you are heavily focused on being productive. And this misalignment, this getting off track from your values, this getting off track from working at the center of your genius zone, this can slowly drown you in dissatisfaction at the exact same time that you are winning productivity and other types of awards. And maybe you've burnt yourself out along the way and are now doubled over on the side of the road, just gasping for air and wanting it to all stop. But there's a better way. Years ago, I picked up Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism, and was immediately smitten. If you've never read it, the long and short of it is in its subtitle, which is that it's about the disciplined pursuit of less. And I love this book so much that I read it twice, I listened to the audio version a bunch of times, and I became this little essentialism evangelist. I even pushed for him to come to the organization where I work, and he came to speak there twice. And each session, we had over 300 leaders participate. Like, folks were hungry for what he had to say. And I even ran a book club about it. And I still have an ongoing chat for the diehard leaders who want to stay in touch and in conversation about putting the essentialism principles into practice. And I still consider myself an essentialist because of it. And I love how the questions Greg asks are about helping you find your essential intent and teaching you how the word priority is really a single concept and that there is no such thing as priorities. And so it made me beg the question, if I'm going to give up this productivity mindset, which is often about more done, faster and better, and instead adopt a disciplined pursuit of less, what will my priority be? And I think you know what the answer was for me and what I think it should be for you. It's creating. Because all the years of being productive, and trust me, I know how to be an amazing productivity hamster, were not satisfying. All the years of being super productive and going really fast and waking up in the morning and hitting the ground and going and knocking things off my list ended up making me feel really frustrated and dissatisfied, despite the fact of being successful in that productivity way every single day. And it took me years to figure out this secret, this thing that I've come to and why I'm always talking to you about creating and how creating is that life-giving and generating thing where our sense of satisfaction in work can really start to thrive. But it's not creating all the things and in all the ways, right? We don't want to run into the same issue, right, that we do when we're in that productivity mindset. It's about thinking about one thing, the one thing you want to create, the one thing that will be your legacy, the one thing that forces you to slow down in all of life and in all of your work. Because the problem with diving into your job or career and being focused about being as productive as possible is not just for the reasons I mentioned before. It's not just that you get swept up in hustle culture and can come to easily define yourself by external barometers of success, like climbing ladders, like getting titles, like being in photo ops with famous people, like hitting the bestseller list or winning an award. A productivity mindset isn't just problematic because it's easy to drift and become misaligned with your values because of it. It's problematic also because it often doesn't ask you to really dig deep and create. And especially create with your gifts, because creating is often too deep and too slow for what productivity culture is after. Creating with your gifts in the ways that I talk about it here at Reframe to Create is deeply rooted in who you are and what you're uniquely built to contribute. And it doesn't matter if that is a small and slow thing in the eyes of the go big and go fast world. That's the other thing. What matters in creating is bringing something to life with your gifts, regardless of how big it is or flashy or if you make a ton of money from it or not. It can be. Those are things, of course, are things that can happen, but that's not the value or the success metric for creating with your gifts. Because the goal is to honor the gift and the unique contribution you're here to make in service with that gift. If you've had an area of your life where you're creating, the satisfaction that comes with it. And if you've been privileged enough to be able to create with your gifts at work, you know how heartburst fulfilling that can be and how it can feel. To bring something to life and know it is seen and valued for what it is and you're able to have a positive impact with it. You know how energizing creating can be. And if you go too long without creating, that feeling of being drained that creeps into your life. My guest Jifa talked about this in episode 79. During some of her toughest days, she found that creating brought her light and her energy back. And I've found the same to be true for me. Creating is satisfying and energizing in a way that being focused on being productive just isn't. That's because often when we're in productivity mode, it's a bottomless pit. It's a race that never ends and it's never satisfied and it isn't itself satisfying. So here's what I want you to chew on. How much of your work in your job is creating versus how much of it is you shuffling papers, crossing off T's, dotting I's, hitting to-do lists, hitting the task, hitting the metrics, and all that stuff. How much of your work is creating, generating, bringing something to life that requires your creativity and your initiative and you really pouring those best parts of you into it versus you, speeding on and knocking off tasks. How much of that? How much is you slowing down to think deeply about what you want to create with your gifts versus the hustle? How much of your work is generating and bringing to life? Are you creating somewhere in your work, anywhere? Where can you say, I created this project, this program, this new way of thinking or doing something? How much of you have you been able to pour in and birth out of your work on your job that you can look at and see your reflection in it? I want you to think about this, not because I want you to do anything about it right now. I just want you to notice. Because if you've been feeling dissatisfied at work lately, could this be it? Maybe it's not that you're doing so much work and are overworked and burnt out. Maybe the real issue is that while you're being very productive, you're just not creating enough. So what now? I want you to just pause and sit with these questions. I want you to take a good hard look at your job satisfaction right now and just ask yourself, how much of my time am I spending being productive versus creating? Like really, just sit with it. And if you can't find anything in your life right now that you're creating, I want you to ask. what can I create and where can I find the space for that? And if you are creating or you know what you can create, I want you to ask, how can I make more room for this in my life now? And chew on it. Creating is the lost art that's going to give you a sense of satisfaction in your work and bring your energy back. If you need help in getting clarity on what you create that won't just bring you more satisfaction in work, but will also be your unique contribution and service to your world, then book an exploration session with me at reframetocreate.com/contact. I want to help you get that clarity so you can create with your gifts and make a unique contribution. See you soon, Creating Maven. Until then, remember to always ask yourself, what will I create?